And we are welcoming you back once again for episode 2 in the Game vs. Game series. Today we're comparing Galaga for the Atari 7800 and Galaga 90 for the TurboGrafx 16. This is what the boxes look like, which they came in. Up first is Galaga for the Atari 7800 Pro system. This is cartridges compared to the hue cards, or almost look like credit cards, of the TurboGrafx 16. I'll talk about that comparison, about how Atari kind of let you down because they had a whole circuit board to work with, which I kind of find a shame. How NEC managed to pack more stuff onto a hue card and more variety. But this is one of the most arcade accurate ports made by an official company. Actually, Atari published this one. So I kind of like that. The only thing that really lets it down on this game is the Atari 7800 controller, which I find to be a huge, massive letdown for this system. I mean, this system would be very enjoyable if it wasn't for that piece of shit. That's I think really what wins it over for the TG16 for me. And the controller is so stiff. I mean, I was trying to shoot and the button wouldn't work, so I just got my shit rocked completely. And that enemy is just flying around like, nah, you can't shoot me. That's bad, I just shot you. Little shit. There we go. Got him that time. Another cool thing about this version is that you do get the illusion that you are moving, and they kind of do this well. I don't like how far it is in the background. I mean, it kind of underplays it. It kind of pisses me off because I think they should have paid a lot more attention to detail, because this is one of their best-selling games besides Pac-Man and like Dig Dug and that kind of stuff, for their home consoles and that kind of stuff. So I mean, that really understates what they were trying to say. They're pretty much like, yeah, you can buy this game, but that was a terrible round because of the controller. I do like how they give you the percentage, but sadly that round was over, so now it's time to go on to the TurboGrafx 16 version of Galaga 90, which is actually made a lot later, about 5 years later. So you can see the front, or the opening screen, is a better representation of the TurboGrafx 16's power, even though at heart it really was, I think I'll meet it in the middle, I'll call it a 12-bit system, because it did have two 16-bit processors, but the CPU itself was 8-bit, unlike the Genesis, which came out the same year. So I think they kind of cheated out everybody. But it does have some really good side-scrolling spaceship shooters, which I do really appreciate, because, you know, I do like spaceship shooters. So here you can already see there's more attention to detail. The little specks in the background, which represent stars, they're different colors, they're kind of floating in and out in the distance. I do like how there is a little spaceship in the very bottom, around the right hand, kind of lower of the screen. Also, there's a different variety of enemies in this game, which I do appreciate more. That just means that they paid more attention. They made improvements over the Atari version, which sadly is not the best version that I've ever played. I think that the company that either publishes the game or gets really famous for it should have the best arcade port. So I think that's a big letdown for the Atari, but the TG16 controller is much better suited to this. Instead of having to hammer away at the buttons, you do get the turbo fire for this on this controller, which comes standard for every TurboGrafx 16 controller, which I find to be nice for spaceship shooters and stuff like that. So instead of having to hammer away at the buttons on the Atari 7800 controller, which is just about god near impossible. But another thing that does help about this game is that you can go from either single spaceship or dual. You don't have to have your fighter captured and risk shooting it or losing it, to start out with two spaceships to fire at once. So I think this really also helps how fast-paced the game is. I feel that this is a lot more fast-paced, and it's not really an arcade classics, I feel like, genre, but I feel like it's more of a spaceship shooter because of the way that everything lays out, and it sounds phenomenal on this system, even though both of these systems are RF based. But what those little glowing bricks were, it actually takes you to different parts of the game if you collect both of them. I know there may be another rock over here. See, there's nothing that came out of it. But I'll show you that just before this gameplay clip ends for Galaga 90. Unfortunately, it does have to come to an end. So, yeah. Another cool thing about this is that if you remember at the beginning of the Galaga 90 footage, the gameplay that I caught, the little blue streak on the side was at the very left top hand of the screen, and it progressively moves over, which pretty much does mean that you're moving. Um, I do like galactic dancing though. That is a neat feature that was not featured on any other Galaga ever created. I think it adds a neat twist. This is a lot better of a Galaga. This is galactic dancing because everything's more sporadic. It's harder to hit it, except for on that one I just mowed him down. So I think that's one of the cooler things about this game is that you do get to do that. So I did get a perfect round on that one. Unfortunately, this clip's about to come to an end, and here's where those two little glowing bricks come in. Dimension Warp. So anyway, tell me which game you think is better, Galaga 90 on the TurboGrafx 16 or the original arcade port of the Atari 7800. So here's a little info. Don't forget to check out my other videos, my other game versus game series like Choplifter, and thanks for watching.